The data menu of ACL allows you to complete many data management functions, as well as test for data quality and do some searching into the data. So let's take a look in ACL and walk through this menu one by one. Now in ACL, first off, it makes a lot of sense to open up a data file, and it makes the menu then active. Now what we can do is we can extract data. By extracting data, we'll talk about how you can extract if something's true, or you could extract and put one file on top of another. We could export data to another application, such as Excel or a text document. There are some crystal reports, which is outside of the scope of today's discussion, but we can create crystal reports that would then be able to immediately report on that information in more of that crystal format. We can index the data by creating an index, and by indexing the data, it sorts that data. And you can create multiple indexes, which if you look right over here, you can then just select. So if you had this table and you had multiple indexes of this table, you just select whatever index you want and it then applies itself. Indexing works well with relating tables, and actually if you ever relate tables, it automatically creates the index. You have to create an index in order to relate tables. And relating tables is very similar to the access format of putting tables together, where you have a bit of a visual view and you're able to add tables and then relate them and combine them in ACL. The report feature allows you to produce printed reports in ACL, and you can create multi-line reports and views in ACL. It's a bit outside of the scope of today's discussion because I don't use this very much. I normally export to Excel, but when we talk about exporting, I will show you the report option. I just again find printing anything out or even printing to PDF, I question how much people will utilize that. However, it is an approach and something that can be utilized if you want to do that. Joining tables together, similar to the relating tables, but the relating is always going to be a join primary join. Whereas joining tables, you can join primary, secondary, matched, unmatched, many to many. There's so many options in the join feature. And the two different, one other difference, main difference, is that the relate tables, it's more of a logical relation. So it looks good in your view here, but it isn't an actual table on your hard drive. There are benefits to that. The join table will then create a physical table on your hard drive that is joined, and that therefore creates more hard drive space, but it is something where that final file will be a lot quicker. Merging tables is similar to extracting and appending, where you're merging two files together. Only difference there is that the merge table will be sorted. And I find that most of the time I use extract append, but merge is out there and something to do. In order to run a lot of these commands, you can sort your records, or very similar to the index, you basically sort. The index and the sort is like the relate to the join. The index is more of a logical index. The sort is more of a physical sorting of those records, and it creates a file that is fully sorted. Verify will verify the data type. So if you have a date field and then you have letters in the date field, it will have a problem with that. The search feature is something where you can search through an entire table for something, and we'll show you some practical examples of how to do that. It's very useful if you want to try to find something quickly. And then, which is more of importing data, we kind of lopped in the external data, the external definition, and the server type options here, which again is outside of the scope of today's discussion. This is more of importing data, whereas most of these commands, with exception of crystal reports, are really data management commands of once the data is in ACL, what can we do with that? So I just want to show you, as I close this table and go back to my data menu, you can kind of see some of the things we're not going to talk about today just highlight themselves quickly, and then as I open a table, those items that we are going to talk about obviously now are not grayed out and are able to be selected.